the government of Afghanistan that had been backed by the United States, those officials fled. They left the country. And the Afghan military that the US trained laid down their arms and allowed a Taliban takeover of Afghanistan. And now the pressure is on the Biden administration to evacuate all the Afghans, the thousands of Afghans that worked alongside the United States during the 20-year war effort, and the American citizens that are also stuck in the country. I'm Alex Ward, a national security reporter at Politico, and I'm here to talk about where the blame falls after the collapse of Afghanistan. Everyone in Washington is now pointing fingers at each other, trying to decide who's the one to blame.
This president confronted a challenge in Afghanistan. He has utterly failed.
I think the consequences are going to be unbelievably bad.
Starting under Obama, has been lying about the relationship between the Taliban and al-Qaeda.
I inherited a deal that President Trump negotiated with the Taliban.
The Bush family will not be happy, but I believe it was the worst decision in the history of our country when we decided to go into the Middle East.
But you have to go back in history to realize that this has been a longer-term issue, and really a 2-decade-long issue, and not just one from the Biden presidency. It was President George W. Bush who decided to launch the invasion, although he received great support in doing so because it was seen as revenge against al-Queda to root out the terrorists who had been living there. The U.S. very quickly deposed the Taliban, pushed al-Qaeda out of the country, but remained in Afghanistan in order to ensure that it would not become a safe haven for terrorists for years to come. One could blame President Barack Obama for escalating the war, surging troops of the country, and not ending it, even though it was something he said he wanted to do.
By the end of 2014, the Afghans will be fully responsible for the security of their country.
Instead of just being a counterterrorism mission, which is what Joe Biden, when he was vice president, wanted it to be, the mission changed in order to develop Afghanistan, to give it a government that was more Western in style, that was democratic.
We've also supported the Afghan people as they continue the hard work of building a democracy. Now we're finishing the job we started.
You could blame President Donald Trump for also not ending the war.
We just signed an agreement that puts us in a position to get it done, bring us down to in the vicinity of 8,000 troops.
And for creating a peace deal with the Taliban that was never really going to be adhered to by the militants.
Very much hoping that they will be doing what they say they're going to be doing. They will be killing terrorists.
And you could blame President Joe Biden, who, knowing the consequences of what a withdrawal would mean, decided to do so anyway, and whose team missed the intelligence showing that the Afghan military was weak and that the Taliban would take over at a faster clip than expected.
There was nothing that I or anyone else saw that indicated a collapse of this army and this government in 11 days.
What the U.S. found in recent days is that that government had been corrupt, had not done enough to safeguard its people, and that the military had no real will to fight for that government. President Joe Biden is the 4th president to have to handle the war, and he's determined to be the last president to be in charge of it.
I am President of the United States of America, and the buck stops with me.
Presidents Barack Obama and Donald Trump wanted to end the war in Afghanistan, but they didn't for 2 main reasons. One was pressure from the Pentagon. The military consistently informed civilian leadership, including the president, that if the U.S. military were to withdraw from Afghanistan, the Taliban would take over in quick succession, and that there would be chaos all throughout the country. And the second reason was worry about the public fallout. If there were going to be scenes of the Taliban sweeping across Afghanistan, the return of a militant group to power when the U.S. had spent so many billions of dollars and so many thousands of lives, the belief within the political class of those 2 administrations was that the U.S. public would not reward them for the withdrawal decision and that there would be a massive backlash. Democrats and Republicans have mostly been divided on the issue of Afghanistan. Democrats and typically progressives have been the ones advocating for an end to the quote-unquote forever wars, of which Afghanistan was a poster child.
But he was right in trying to end endless wars.
Republicans have traditionally supported the war, saying that any withdrawal from the country would lead to a Taliban takeover and the resurgence of al-Queda.
I don't agree with an arbitrary date for withdrawal. If we don't have that success and we only set an arbitrary date, it emboldens our enemies and dispirits our friends.
However, during the Trump administration, when Trump had shown very clearly that he wanted out of Afghanistan,
we are working to finally end America's longest war and bring our troops back home.
Many Republicans said that they were also as interested in withdrawing from the country, even though some prominent ones, including then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, said that would have been a bad idea.
A rapid withdrawal of U.S. forces from Afghanistan now would hurt our allies and delight the people who wish us harm.
There's been great disagreement within both parties over when to leave Afghanistan. During the 2020 Democratic presidential primaries, there was a debate in which the candidates were asked, when would you withdraw U.S. troops from the country?
Will you withdraw all U.S. service members by the end of your first year in office?
We will withdraw.
The leadership I will bring to do the right thing, to bring our troops home within the first year in office.
Joe Biden in that same debate said by the end of his first term. However, it seems that Biden moved more towards the Buttigieg-Gabbard side.
We don't need those troops there. I would bring them home.
Yet President Joe Biden, weighing what would happen if the U.S. withdrew, decided to do so anyway.
The truth is, this did unfold more quickly than we had anticipated.
There's no question that President Joe Biden is taking a risk by withdrawing U.S. troops from Afghanistan. He risks the scenes in Afghanistan getting worse. He risks the Taliban erasing 2 decades of progress in the country and risks the full collapse of Afghan society happening on his watch. But in his mind, that is still all worth it, as long as the U.S. takes itself out of a war that he believes does not serve the national interest. The focus now is on evacuating the thousands of Afghans who served alongside the U.S. during the war, giving them special immigrant visas and having them travel to the United States in order to be safe instead of facing perhaps a fatal Taliban revenge.
What's happening now could just as easily happen 5 years ago or 15 years in the future.
If you talk to former U.S. military and civilian officials, you talk to experts, they'll say the war in Afghanistan was lost long ago. The question was, how could the U.S. lose gracefully?